22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. 22 million black victims of Americanism are waking up, and they're gaining a new political consciousness, becoming politically mature. And as they develop this political maturity, they're able to see the recent trends in these political elections. Any minority that has a block of votes that stick together is in a strategic position. Either way you go, that's who gets it. You're in a position to determine who go to the White House and who stay in the doghouse. You're the one who has that power. You and I have never seen democracy. All we've seen is hypocrisy. When we open our eyes today and look around America, we see America not through the eyes of someone who has enjoyed the fruits of Americanism. We see America through the eyes of someone who has been the victim of Americanism. We don't see any American dream. We've experienced only the American nightmare. We haven't benefited from America's democracy. We've only suffered from America's hypocrisy. And the generation that's coming up now can see it and are not afraid to say it. 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 And are not afraid to say it.
And are not afraid to say it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You are tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 355, with your host, Damon K. Jones, and myself, AJ Woodson. What's up, Damon? Say what's up to the people.
Yo, what's up? I'm about to log out and log back in.
Okay.
All right.
That's what's up. And we have special guest co-host with us today, Lisa Maria Nero. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So let me just read this real quick. So, yes, as I said, you were tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 355. A couple of things going on. Let's see what's in the news. Oh, before I get to the news, today, for all you football fans, this is the fourth time this season and the third week in a row that both the New York Giants and the New York Jets win in the same week. The Giants are now 5-1, best start since 2009. The New York Jets are 4-2, best start since 2015. Buffalo Bills also won the last 2 weeks, and they're playing right now. If they happen to lose today, the Jets will be in first place. Secondly, okay, so my question of the week to everyone, and y'all can answer me in the comment section. What's going on with Kanye West? Is he just batshit crazy, or is he a marketing genius? I'm going to leave that up to you, and you can tell me in the comment section. In our local news, congratulations to Tamika Covingdale, who was just appointed Mount Vernon City Court judge by Mayor Sean Patterson Howard. Tamika Covingdale will be sworn in tomorrow, October 17th, 2022 at City Hall. Ms. Covingdale was selected through a competitive vetting and interview process with the mayor's judicial committee, chaired by William Wagstaff. Ms. Covingdale was selected among those nominees to fill a vacancy left by the untimely passing of the Honorable William Edwards, who served on the bench for almost 20 years. She will run for a full term next year. I want to say Black Westchester would like to congratulate her and say, well deserved. An announcement, the Elias Foundation is now accepting final nominations and applications for the last rounds of submissions for the Activist Fellowship Program. supporting Hudson Valley activists working towards local building, movement building in communities hardest hit by injustice and inequity. We are excited to share with you this opportunity for fellowship of activists in underserved community. Jackie Mann, who is the president, shared with us the deadline for submitting a nomination or a letter of intent is November 30th, 2022. The Mount Vernon High School Career and Technical Education Department will host a program showcase this Thursday, October 20th. That's this Thursday, from 5 to 7, recognizing the kickoff of the Ford Automotive Career Exploration ACA program in partnership with Ford and Rockland Community College for automotive students. The program will give high school students in the automotive program program the opportunity to intern and network at Scarsdale Ford. Upon completion of the program, they will be qualified to start working immediately as a quick lube technician or choose to continue their education at college. Rockland Community College offers the Ford Automotive Students Service Education Training Program and opportunities to graduate with an associate degree in applied science. You heard last week, President Joe Biden took the first major step towards decriminalizing marijuana, fulfilling a campaign pledge to erase prior federal prosecutions and beginning the process of potentially loosening federal classification of the drug, pardoning all prior federal offenses of simple marijuana possessions, a move that senior administration officials said would affect thousands of Americans charged with the crime. In a story that I will be working on this week, the Black community leaders are incensed over a racist mailing from the Loyola campaign. A mailer on behalf of Republican Mike Loyola congressional campaign has 3 Black community leaders outraged. The mailer depicts only photos of Black men as it discusses crime. Peekskill City Mayor Vivian McKenzie, Mid-Hudson Region NAACP Director William Albridge, and Rockland County Legislator Tony Earl reacted to the mailer sent to the Congressional Leadership Fund, which they charge perpetuates the ugly, racist stereotypes that Black Americans are criminals. I will be working on that story this week. Also in the news, BJ Wholesale Club is coming to Greenburgh. The new location will be 375 Tarrytown Road. It's supposed to open on the 27th. And also on the 27th, Sister to Sister International will be officially launching their Black Business Directory. Lastly, for those who don't know, Damon and I were included in the City and State New York magazine Westchester Power 100 list for the 3rd year in a row. And I was just featured in 914 Inc. in the September-October issue. If any of you missed that, I hear Damon's back. Let me welcome Damon back. What's up, my brother?
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Hey, Sister Lisa, what's happening? That's what I'm talking about. I'm
sorry.
I don't know what's going on with Bob, but
no. My question of the day, you missed it. My question of the week is Kanye West batshit crazy, or is he a marketing genius?
I think he's both.
That was Bob.
I think Kanye is both. I think Kanye is going to push the envelope like he usually does, and he's going to create conversation. I saw a post, a little snip. I haven't watched the full Drink Champs with him and Noriega. And I think it was a good conversation between him and Noriega. And Kanye makes some serious points. He makes some serious points that Black people are still afraid to have the real conversation about where we are in our economics, where we are in our business, where we are and how we control our economics and control our businesses. And I think there's a conversation that a lot of Black folks are scared to have, especially in the entertainment business. So,
Damon, I have to agree with you.
mhm,
That was the entire conversation when we were at Black Caucus in DC. And believe it or not, your guest from last week, Ben Chavis, that is exactly the conversation that
mhm,
they were having when we were in that workshop, just talking about uh, the inability of Black people to actually know the power that we have. And you're right, they
exactly.
are scared to have those conversations. Um, and it takes a bold step, as batshit crazy as you think he may sound or seem. You know, you look at it. Is it crazy? How crazy is it if he's getting the attention? If he's getting the hits, if he's at least, like you said, what is the best thing when you say at least we're having a conversation?
Dr.
So
Bob, I wish your behind was on this show so we could have this conversation. And instead of typing in the Facebook in the Facebook thread. No, I don't think he's an embarrassment. I think he's creating a conversation again. He's creating a conversation that a lot of people that a lot of people what are scared to have. Dr. Claude Anderson, who always brought it up. A lot of people talked about how the entertainment industry, and slaves are scared of confrontation. So,
People,
we're gonna, sooner, and they're gonna shut him down, but he
well,
has too much money.
in the most recent interview, something that came afterwards. So the other thing he got in trouble for was the flag for was the White Lives Matter T-shirt. So after he made that comment, the company behind that canceled that, and he said that further makes his point about who controls things. So that's what
Charles,
that's what.
but Charleston White made a good statement about that, and I can't argue. Charleston White said, "Wait a minute, y'all. His kids are half white. The baby mama, the ex-wife, is half white. So
No, she's all
white
white.
lives do matter to Kanye.
White, and,
It
and
might
she's all
it
white.
might not matter to us, or it might not matter into to what we're trying to say. You understand? But Charleston White said, well, what happens to his children when they look at him and say, "Daddy, well, I'm half white. Do I matter?" Right? So I mean, look, to each his own. But I also understand. I also understand the power of the media, and Kanye understands as well. Whether they talking good or talking bad about you, as long as they talking about you.
And places companies like Adidas, he's probably driving them crazy, but they
And
cannot afford to
and
cut him because
right now,
he makes
Adidas.
more than
I,
50%
I
of their
bet you,
bottom line right now.
if you look at Adidas' bottom line right now, see how many Yeezys they sold.
He brings
Once
in more.
he came up with that White Lives Matter T-shirt, Adidas going to take the same road as Netflix did with Dave Chappelle.
facts. Damon, let me just add what you were saying when you said who has the power. What he said, who has the power. I have this argument all of the time. Black people cannot be racist because we do not hold the power. We can be
Exactly.
prejudiced. We can be prejudiced. We can be biased. We can be discriminatory, but we can't be racist. You need to look at the word, what it's about. And racism is about power. And I'm glad you actually brought about when you said, we're still afraid. And again, I'm doing a deep dive, with my dissertation, because I am now relating the not the those who do not blacks who are resisting against reparations. I am now tying it into fear and mistrust. So I'm doing all this research, and it's crazy. And you're right, it is from back then. And it all lines up to what he's saying. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. But yeah, we don't understand the power that we do have.
Exactly. One day we will, one day we will get it. I mean, what we spend 1 point something trillion in bullshit, right? We're the country's largest consumer, but we own less property in 2020 than we did right after slavery. Facts. Right? We don't understand the importance of owning property, and what does that always represent in America, being a free man and owning property. And we're still not getting it. Big shout out to Rashad Bilal and Earn Your Leisure and trying to get these young people into buying real estate and owning property. Big shout out to my cousin AJ and teaching classes in Atlanta and for people to buy property. We don't get it, but we still buying the Gucci bags and all the craziness, and we literally have no power. We don't even own our politicians.
That's what that stimulus package. I'll say this and we move on. All the stimulus money that came in, that wasn't to help our community. That was for us to spend the money that we spend to save the economy. That wasn't about it being good for us and helping us pay our bills and that. And they knew if they gave us that money, we would spend it, and these businesses would stay open.
Exactly.
And that had more to do with that than it had to do with actually helping us. But we have a guest.
AJ. I'm just 1 second, because when you sit up there and talk about that, Damon, you said something so powerful. We don't even own our politicians. And do you know why? Do you know why? Because I am not going to say all, but the tendency of Black people do not donate to political campaigns.
Amen.
So
Exactly.
how can you speak on any subject unless you're putting a check on the table? I don't care how small the donation is, because what is it? Anybody who even gave $25 to Obama's campaign was invited to the inauguration. I mean, so again, you have to always look at the picture. Like, I'm not giving to no politician. It's not going to make a difference. But AJ, what was it when who was it when we were on the show, and a gentleman, I'm sorry, you can go right back to your guest. I'm sorry. That the gentleman who was just like, well, I understand, you're looking at it as a one-on-one, because I was like, did you ever call up anybody's office and ask constituent services to speak with somebody? They're not unobtainable. They're not unapproachable. You just have to make a phone call and get an appointment. And it was just like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, okay, next. I couldn't, but I just wanted to make that point. In order to have any say so with politicians, unfortunately, it's about the fundraising, and it's about the checkbook, unfortunately. So if we don't have how can we have any say if we're not donating to their campaigns to make sure that they remain in office? Forget about getting in office. Let's remain there.
Absolutely. I just donated some money to Val Demings' campaign. I want to see her beat. I want to see her win that election. It wasn't a whole lot, but I've donated to help her win that election. So without further ado, a lot of you have seen we've been having various discussions on what has been called the menthol cigarette ban. I think it's flavored tobacco ban. I think that's exactly what it is, not just menthol. But so we've had discussions on the show with a bunch of guests, and there was a town forum in Mount Vernon. Damon has been on other people's shows. We were contacted by the Board of Legislators, and they wanted to know if we would bring Dr. Philip Gardner on, when during the forum, County Legislator Christopher Johnson made a comment that it is the melanin in Black people that makes that makes the menthol affect us more or something like that. And I texted him to see where he got that information from because I was unable to find that information. And he told me he mentioned this gentleman here, Dr. Philip Gardner. Without further ado, we want to welcome him to the show. Welcome to the show, Dr. Philip Gardner. How are you, sir?
Look, thank you folks for having me. It was an interesting discussion you were having before. Maybe we can get back to it in a bit.
Well, if you want to chime in on anything we talked about.
No. I want to stay on the menthol question because I think it's a little broader question. Just shortly, and we'll circle back to the melanin thing. The short story is the darker your skin, the more nicotine is stored in your body. We have scientific evidence about that. The tobacco industry has known that for years. Now let's just set that aside and get back to what I have come here for. Can
I stop you real quick? I have one question before you go further. So you said the darker your skin, the more the nicotine affects your body?
The more melanin you have in your body, the more nicotine is stored in your body.
Okay, so stop right there with that right there.
But that's not menthol.
This proposal is for menthol. My co-host and several other people that I know, my co-host is not on today, and several other people, they smoke, but they don't smoke menthol. They smoke like Marlboro and stuff like that. So you're saying nicotine, not menthol. So why is this?
So that's why I'm saying that's a different discussion, and I want to come back to it.
Okay.
If we could focus in on the menthol question, let me just say and give a proper introduction.
Yes, please.
I'm Dr. Philip Gardner. I'm a public health doctor. I am the co-chair of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. We're based in California, but we work nationally. We've been responsible for many of the work around getting menthol off the market across the country. We are the ones who sued the Food and Drug Administration to actually take up this issue since they had dropped it for over 12 years. I think you might look at it this way. I recently retired from the University of California Office of the President Tobacco-Related Disease Research Program, where I'd worked for some 25 years and have looked into this subject matter quite deeply. I'll start us off with this, and then we can kind of branch out from it from here. You should look at it this way, that menthol cigarettes and flavored little cigars have been and are the main vectors of death and disease in the Black and brown communities. The COVID-19 pandemic has just thrown a spotlight on the health disparities that we have faced for hundreds of years here in the United States. Nothing could be more helpful in saving Black lives and showing that Black lives matter than getting menthol cigarettes straight out of the Black community. So I would like to start there and go back over some of the history. The question that we need to kind of get a hold of: why is it that African Americans, that 85% of African American smokers smoke menthol cigarettes? Where did that come from? In the early 1950s, only 5% of African Americans smoked menthol cigarettes. By 1968, that had almost tripled to 14%. By 1976, it had tripled again to 42%. By the mid-2000s, it had doubled into the 80s. So it's where 85% today of African Americans smoke these products. I would suggest to you that the predatory marketing of these products in the community by the tobacco industry is what has led to the disproportionate use, abuse, and deaths associated with that. And before it became popular, my organization, the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council, founded our website, which essentially is blacklivesmatters.org back in the late 2000s. I would suggest to you that menthol cigarettes are more advertised in our community. There are more free giveaways in our communities. There are more promotions. There are more money is spent given to our organizations in our communities to buy their silence or to buy them as spokespersons. Menthol cigarettes are cheaper in the African American community. We have data that actually points this out. This was a full court press.
Cheaper than what?
Cheaper than they are in other communities.
They're cheap. So they're cheaper than other cigarettes, or they're just cheaper than other communities.
So if it costs $10 to buy a pack of cigarettes in the white community, a menthol pack of cigarettes, it costs $8 in the black community.
Can I stop you real quick? So I
Certainly.
live in Mount Vernon. I have several bodegas around me.
Okay.
So the cigarettes are not cheaper because they're in the black community. These bodegas are going down south and purchasing cigarettes that, see, it's not the cigarettes that went up, it's the taxes on the cigarettes that went up.
No.
So listen, Giuliani did this in the city.
No.
No. This is documented.
No.
So cigarettes are $15 in New York City because Giuliani raised the taxes on all nicotine products, all smoking paraphernalia. The stores around here who sell the cigarettes for $8 or under $10 or $10, they're getting their cigarettes from Virginia and Atlanta that don't have the New York State stamp on it. Now, this is
no,
true.
sir. What happens?
I'm speaking as a smoker who shops at these stores.
Let me just suggest to you that each of the bodegas that you're talking about signed an agreement with their suppliers, and the suppliers of Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds make deals with stores of how they're going to sell and market them, and the deals that are cut in poor communities are cheaper than the deals that are cut in more affluent communities. It has been that way for some time. We actually have copies of the actual agreement that the bodegas actually take out with the tobacco industry. And while it's true
these stores that I'm talking about here in Mount Vernon that I patronize at, they don't have these deals. These are untaxed.
That's not true. They do too have these deals.
These are untaxed. Wait. They don't even sell them. They have to take them from under the counter because it is illegal to sell them without the New York.
So are you suggesting to me that all the cigarettes you smoke are illegal?
They're untaxed by New York State.
All the cigarettes you smoke are untaxed by New York State.
Not all the ones that I smoke, all the bodegas around here and in all the black neighborhoods, they have these untaxed. All you got to do is turn it upside down and you won't see New York State. You won't see anything, or you'll see Virginia, or you'll see Georgia. And I'm telling you what I know. This is why
you have a pack of cigarettes there. You should show me. Show me. But I don't think the point I'm trying to make, Mr. Woodson, this is just part of the problem that's going on, the predatory marketing of these products. And you're actually making my point for me. But you're actually making my point for me.
I want to talk about the predatory. I wanted to discuss this because so we talk about predatory. I didn't see your organization or any of these organizations around when malt liquor was targeted not only to the black community, but to our youth, paying rappers to rap about this, having Billy D. Williams walk around with Colt 45 because he was cool, so everybody wanted to drink Colt 45. These malt liquors were more dangerous than other beers, but they were selling them and making them cheaper, and they were predatory to the city, to the youth. I don't see no one talking about McDonald's.
You know why we're not talking about it?
Let me finish.
You know why you're not talking about it?
Wait, let me finish.
You know why we're not talking about it?
Let me finish.
Well, no, you want me to answer your...
I don't see no one talking about McDonald's.
Well, wait a minute. You don't want someone to answer the question? The question is that if you use malt liquor as you normally would drink something, or if you eat a hamburger as you normally would drink something, it doesn't kill you. But if
McDonald's will kill you.
Eat
McDonald's for a month, you will go to the hospital.
McDonald's, people die of heart disease, lung cancer.
Well, those are the results of eating McDonald's,
and those are brought about by using tobacco products.
But those McDonald's.
No, McDonald's is not.
Processed food will kill you too.
Processed food is not the main killer of black people, though. Processed food is not the main killer of black people. The main killer are cigarettes, and the
One of the biggest
manufacturers
problems
in
with
our
black people
community
is
are
obesity.
menthol cigarettes.
One of the biggest problems with black people is obesity, sir. I have to disagree with you on that.
Yeah, that's true. It's a problem, but it isn't the main killer of us.
That's part of the diet. And that's part of the diet. Because if you look in black communities, you see vegetable and fruit deserts. Because in Mount Vernon and we're talking here in Westchester, right? Because this is the issue of the county legislators. And this was respectfully, this was my view, right? You have Mount Vernon that don't even have a full functioning hospital. That will kill you, right? These are the things in the black community that these legislators are not looking at. And to the fact, and then the fact of the matter is, your diet will kill you. Black people are leading in obesity because of our diet, sir.
Wait a minute, Damon. Let me just suggest this. I don't have a disagreement about the health disparities that our community face. As an African American doctor, you're absolutely right that what we have been eating, what we've been drinking, what we have been using have been killing us. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. I'm just suggesting to you that the main culprit, the number one culprit in this battle is the use of cigarette products. And what the tobacco industry figured out some 50 years ago is that we could specially market these to African Americans, which has been then the main killer. Obesity has been killing us. Police have been killed. All sorts of things have been killing us. I agree. That's not an issue. I'm
Dr.
just
Gardner.
trying to deal with the main issue.
Understood, Dr. Gardner, and I know I've seen a few of your CVs online, and I see how much research you've done, and you've been activist for 20 years. Understood, but when we're just talking about our community, when the first MWBE farmers market was given to our own Colby Jenkins, they had to close it down because there was no participation and there was no participators or no buyers. So they had to, shut it down because no one came and bought anything from there. And when you talk about a food desert, when you look at the only fruit markets that we have is Apple Farm, and I frequent there, occasionally, and the other farm that is right on the corner across from BMW, that's all you have, and then you have Acme, whose food I don't know. You want to talk about process? I don't understand how everything you buy it goes off in a couple of days, starting with milk and eggs or whatever you want to call it. But when you and I'm talking as a proud bypass patient who experienced racial and weight discrimination. You can't tell me about, my life didn't turn around until I had gastric bypass surgery and had to lose almost 200 pounds before I could get ahead in life with a master's degree and couldn't even get a job as a secretary in Westchester County. So when you talk about all these disparities in health, you always have to talk about the health and the medical discrimination that we are dealing with.
So as I said to Damon, Lisa, and I need to say it to all of us. I don't, excuse me, I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. You all right?
He sounds like he sounds like he has my allergies. It's allergies. Am I correct, doctor?
That's correct.
And let me explain while he's getting himself together. What happens is where we're located, and a lot of people don't realize, and this is what I learned actually on my own research and up at the NAACP state convention with Ma Dukes. What happened is they did a piece on environmental justice piece, and I asked about why does New York only have male trees? And the reason why is because it was aesthetically pleasing and they do not bear fruit and seeds like female trees do. So what happens is when allergies. And what happens is when you have only a male tree, and unless you have all the birds, the bees, bringing the seeds over or around or blossoming, that goes into the air and it creates us to have terrible allergies. So because they did not plant female trees, it's only less than 30% are female trees. They're all male trees, and they have all of these pollen going all over the place. And so he has a terrible post-nasal drip like I do. And
Yeah,
you sit up there.
I'm just getting over it. I was just didn't. Yeah, I get post nasal drip
It's
once a year, and
ridiculous.
it's I hate it, but it is what it is. But I think Doc, I respect your work, and I think we all need to be have knowledge on our health and different things that are sold to Black people and how it affects us. My thing is this: if we're going to ban cigarettes, ban all cigarettes, right? Do not just target what Black people use, while white people within Westchester County, all politics is local, right? Where white people in Westchester County can walk around and smoke cigarettes with impunity. If we're not going to address a lot of these other issues that we have in Black communities in Westchester County, then
we should address those issues. I think your point is well taken.
yes,
Let
sir.
me just suggest this has come up a number of times. I want to thank you, Lisa, for noticing it. It's an allergic reaction. My eyes are watering. It has nothing to do with. It's the time of the year. I was in an interview
Right.
on Friday where the same thing happened. So
No, we
I
understand.
apologize.
We all suffer from that. I want to bring some numbers because I want to bring up some numbers. Some
Let
data.
me go back to Damon's point, and then let's go to your point. Let's go back to Damon's point, which I think is a very good point. This has come up a number of times, and I think the punchline here: we would like to get flavored tobacco products off the market as the first step in dealing with the tobacco crisis. Okay. And since flavored products, and particularly menthol, disproportionately affect our community, it's actually to our benefit and to our health to actually have them removed from our community. It's just not it's standing history on its head. It isn't that the tobacco control advocates like myself are racist. It's the tobacco industry that's racist. This came up in Hollywood. We went to Hollywood. I made this presentation. We did exactly what we're doing here. And counsel, like you did, Damon, and I appreciate your point, said, look, why don't we get rid of all of these? I mean, don't come in here and tell us this, that, and the other, and we all talked about it. So we put forward the argumentation, well, let's get rid of the ones that are affecting the poorest and most disparate people in your community, your youth, your colored people, women, folks in the LGBTQ community. Let's do that first. Then they set up a commission to look at the possibility of what you just asked, Damon. So why don't we get rid of cigarettes altogether in our community? After a 6 to 8 month study, they came to the conclusion that that the first step would be to get rid of these flavored products, and that that starting in 2020, you can't buy cigarettes at all in Hollywood. Your point was well taken. So there's a method to doing this. Get it out of the places where it disproportionately hurts our people the most, and then let's take the steps to do what you're actually asking. And I've interrupted you, Mr. Woodson.
Not a problem. Not a problem. So I pulled up the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. I typed in number one killers of the African American community, and statistics. It shows, and these are some statistics it has on here. Health status, percentage of adults 18 age and over in fair or poor condition, 18.7%. Percentage of men 18 and over who currently smoke, 17.2%. Percentage of women 18 and over, 12.9%. Obesity, percentage of men over 20 with obesity, 38.7%. Women over the age of 20, 59.9%. Hypertension of men 20 and over, measured high blood pressure, 56.8%. Women at the same category, 57.6%. Lack of health insurance and other things. They talk about birth 59.9%. The reason I bring up these numbers, one of the first things you said is that this is the number one killer of the Black community, and these percentages are considerably higher than the.
But those are percent. In all fairness, Mr. Woodson, those are percentages of actually people who have those conditions. Those are not mortality figures. Okay. And I want to apologize that we've gone down this road. I've been in the fight around Black people since the 1960s, and I've dedicated my life to it. So I'm not here to argue with you that we shouldn't take up these other issues. I'm in fact, that's what I've done as a public health doctor, and that's all I'm going to do with my life. I'm here to encourage us that the number one killer in those group of things that gives rise to hypertension, that gives rise to all of these things, is the use of these tobacco products, and then particularly the use of flavored tobacco products. Now, what's also most insidious, I guess you guys did hold this meeting in Mount Vernon I believe it was last week or the week before last, and Dr. Ben Chavis came and was there, and my colleague, I'm one of the co-chairs of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. My colleague, Carol Magruder, was there as the other co-chair and actually spoke to this issue. Unfortunately, the tobacco industry puts hundreds of thousands of dollars into Black organizations to speak out in favor of this. So the National Newspaper Association, which Ben Chavis runs, actually receives somewhere in the neighborhood of $200,000 a year from the tobacco industry. It's on their website. They're proud of it. They promote it. This is not only true of them, it's true of the Urban League is one of the biggest receiver of money from them. Unfortunately, Al Sharpton, who's done great work with in our community, takes money from the tobacco industry.
But I don't think
bought into this. So
Doc,
I want us to be aware the tobacco industry is the one making a lot of these plays and giving people money, and we should just be aware of that.
But Doc, I don't think nobody's arguing that cigarettes are not bad for your health.
Oh, I don't think you're arguing that at all.
Nobody, from Dr. Ben Chavis to all I know my man Corey Begees. I know them all, and even Black law enforcement organizations. Nobody's arguing about the health disparities of smoking. The argument is that the law is biased, right? And the law will create. I've been a correction officer for 33 years. You have New York, like everything. I'm gonna go back to politics is local. You've taken away the marijuana hustle. So now you're going to give the hustle to menthol cigarettes. If you're just going to ban it in Westchester, and we're talking specifically Westchester, where you have southern cities in Westchester that can walk across the street and be in the Bronx, just literally across the street and be in the Bronx. Yes. You're going to create a black market. And the same
let me suggest to you that so I've heard this argument before. Let me I know the argument is.
I just want to finish this point. And the same thing I said, and the same thing I said to Legislator Williams, if you think that the county and state and feds going to see these young black kids out here making all this money off of tax-free cigarettes, and you think they're not going to come down on them, we are really fooling ourselves. We have made a lot of mistakes with pieces of legislation with unintended consequences. We have done this in New York with the bail reform. We have done it with the HALT bill. We have continued to do it, which affects the Black community in a negative way. And when Black law enforcement, my wife is a detective. You know, I'm a third generation Black law enforcement officer, right? So and for some reason, nobody wants to listen to us. And when they say that it's not going to be a law enforcement problem, it will be a law enforcement problem.
So let me just say to you, menthol cigarettes have been outlawed in over 150 cities around the United States. There has not been one person arrested for these products because the laws that are being passed are aimed at retail establishments, not at individual possession. That's number one. And I really want to assert that. When we passed these laws in Oakland, when we passed the law in San Francisco, we've even, when we're working on the law now in Detroit, the police chiefs have come out and said, not only do we support this, we're not about arresting people for this because that's not about personal use, personal possession, or personal purchase. It's about that. You raise a second point. So that's the first point. This people aren't going to be arrested for this because it isn't aimed at this. And no one has been arrested in the United States for the possession of menthol cigarettes. But your second point,
no. Well, wait. No one's been arrested.
No,
no
I'm
one's
going
been
to your
arrested
second point
for...
now. Your second point is that this will create an illicit market. I'm not going to use the term black market to dignify and disrespect our people that way. It's going to create an illicit market. So if you look at 170 so cities around the United States where this has been passed, there is no illicit market that has arisen. If you look at Canada, where this has been outlawed throughout all the provinces, there's no illicit market that has arisen. Okay.
When you say illicit market, you
well,
mean,
no,
you mean no one's been arrested? Do you mean no one's been arrested?
No one's been. Who's been arrested?
Okay, but you
Hold
say
on, wait. It's two things. You said no one's been arrested for having menthol cigarettes, but people have been arrested for selling black market cigarettes.
Let's get to the third point.
Let's make that clear. Now, people get arrested.
There's
for
3
that.
points here. One is the law that are being proposed in Westchester County, in New York City, which is also being worked on in terms of this, is about retailers not being able to sell the products. It says specifically in the law, and it says specifically in the law in Westchester County, because I've looked at it and the people have shared it with me, that individuals will not be arrested or even targeted for personal use, possession, or purchase. It's so specifically in the law.
Well, we're
Second
selling.
Point,
no, but selling.
But it says that.
But selling, right? But
So,
you can't sell. But you it's illegal to sell. So you can't have a law to say, well, we're going to ban it, but then nobody can be arrested. But when the feds can come down and arrest them.
Wait a minute.
The feds can come down and arrest them for selling illegal cigarettes. The feds can do that because I know some people in jail.
So the other point I'd like to make, and I think your point is well taken in this regard, it's important to recognize where these cigarettes actually would come from. I think Mr. Woodson had pointed out that these are coming from states that don't have taxes on them, and they're moving into New York.
No, they're not. The problem is, excuse me, to be specific, they have their tax for Virginia. New York State has a certain amount of taxes. New York City has a certain amount of taxes. When you bring a cigarette in from another state, it doesn't. New York hasn't taxed it. The reason with the Eric Garner situation is selling a loose cigarette. It is an untaxed cigarette. That is the actual crime for selling an
So
untaxed
part of the new legislation that is being proposed by the Food and Drug Administration is that you would stop the production of menthol cigarettes. So at some point, this where menthol cigarettes come from has to stop, and would have to stop in Virginia, in Tennessee, in North Carolina to stop actually being able to come up here up to New York. I used to live in New York, by the way, in Brooklyn, so, so I know what we're talking about here. To come up here and do that. I don't think, I guess what, and to make it just a little bit broader discussion, I appreciate that Black folks have been discriminated against by the police since they invented police.
I
And
get
that
that.
I know this. I'm a Black man. I appreciate what we're talking about here. I'm just trying to get across the point that an important part of saving Black lives and making Black lives matter is getting menthol cigarettes out of our community. Let me tell you the other side. There's a whole nother side of this thing we haven't brought up, and I really want to bring it up with you folks. Let's say we actually do this, and we've done this in a number of cities where this question has come up. So how are we going to help people do that? Where are the cessation services that are culturally appropriate and language specific, and the money is set aside for them? If we're going to take, well, this is to your point, and I agree with, if you're going to take away the thing that African Americans are doing the most, then we need to give them the most help. It's the same thing. The poorest people need the most support in getting up on their feet. The most smokers need the best support in getting up on their feet. So we have to do that. Let me even take it a step further. The FDA is proposing that they get rid of menthol as a characterizing flavor. The problem with that is that even if it's not a characterizing flavor, menthol would still be in cigarettes. And let me just take a quick second to tell you what menthol is chemically from a scientific point of view. Menthol, by definition, is an anesthetic. Okay, it has a cooling and numbing effect. That's why they put it in there. It leads to deeper inhalation. It allows I used to smoke. And you remember as a kid, the first couple of times you hit that cigarette, ooh, this is horrible, you know. But the menthol allows the poison to go down a little easier. The deeper you inhale, the more toxins and nicotine you take in. The more toxins and nicotine you take in, the more addicted you become. The more addicted you become, the harder it is to quit. That's why
Dr.
they
Gardner.
use cigarettes in the first place.
Dr. Gardner, you made a very good point when you talked about, well, okay, if we're going to take it away in the Black community, and what are we going to do as far as, like you said, in education? Now, can you tell me where all of the free patches and free nicotine patches that was in an attempt to stop smoking overall? What happened to that program? Why did it die? Why did it go away? And then now all of a sudden, now you want to target the Black community and menthol cigarettes, even though they were, as you said, truthfully speaking, they were targeted in the 50s. They were targeted in Ebony magazine and all of the Black publications, looking cool and cool jazz festival and all of these marketing directed at the African American and Black communities. So what happened to that whole smoking altogether? Was there that much of a kickback from Philip Morris, who happened to be one of the top sponsors of the U.S. Black Congressional Caucus a couple of weeks ago?
That's exactly right. Unfortunately, the Black Congressional Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is the one that put on the show. You should be aware that while that was going on 2-3 weeks ago, we were holding the third National Menthol Conference across the street in the Marriott Hotel right there.
I thought you looked familiar. I'm kidding.
having this same discussion. But towards your point, what happened to the cessation? Look, it's great for me to sit here and say we need to do this, we need to do that, but people are going to need help to do this and need to do that. There needs to be money set aside. So the FDA has actually said in the ruling that they put out that they're trying to inform that if we were to remove menthol from the marketplace, we would need to identify funds from other federal agencies to support this effort. And we're pushing them on this. Look, the tobacco industry as a whole in the United States is probably, and this was true a few years ago, since the pandemic, I can't say, is probably the sixth largest company in the world when you put them all together. We're talking about a fight of a huge magnitude. I mean, you're talking about earlier what we're doing as Black folks. We've been in this position for 400 years. We've been trying to get out of it. As a doctor, I'm working on this side of the street. I support the other sides of the street that we're fighting to get on. Toward your point, Lisa, it says in the legislation that money needs to be found for cessation services. We're going to push that both at the local, the state, and the federal level. And let me just thank you for recognizing my allergies, because when it takes over, you notice it's gone away. That's what happens. It just you're there, and that's who you are. And so,
Doc, I wanted to two things. There's a Eyewitness News Channel 7 exclusive, and when we talk about the black market, it's exclusive. It says illegal cigarettes are big business in New York City. 80%, it says 80% of the cigarettes sold in New York City are sold illegally, either over the counter or in backroom bodegas, where this typical pack sells for $8 to $9 instead of $13. This is why we say you're going to feed the animal. You're going to feed the monster, because you're going to create more of a demand for these illegal cigarettes that, according to Channel 7, according to Eyewitness News, right, is big business in New York City, and it will be big business in Westchester County, because we're
can I ask you about the
right next
special?
to.
Can I ask? No, I appreciate you telling me this. What was the name of because I want to look it up. I want to look into it.
It's Eyewitness News. Eyewitness News. The title is Exclusive: Illegal Cigarettes Are Big Business in New York City. Let me see if I could.
No, that's
it's
illegal
June
cigarettes
13th.
are big business.
Yeah, illegal cigarettes are big business in New York City. That's the title. It's June 2017. So what we're saying is, from a law enforcement perspective and from a community perspective, you're going to feed, you're just going to feed the animal, right? And it'd be the new hustle. You know, it's like I reported. Look, I work with inmates. I work with brothers locked up. I work with sisters locked up, right? We've taken the weed away. We made it legal, right? So they got to have another hustle, and unfortunately, this might be the new hustle, and we don't want to go that way. Now,
let me ask you a question. So I'm going to look into this, and frankly, I do know that illegal. I didn't know the size of what you're saying, but I'm aware of the illegal sales of cigarettes in New York. That's not news. That I understand.
Right.
Let's just drill down on this just a little bit. Where do the cigarettes come from that are illegally being sold?
I guess they come from out of state.
Where do all cigarettes come from in the United States?
The South and the tobacco fields?
Mm-hmm. They come from Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee. They come from where they produce cigarettes. So so there needs to be, and this is part of why we're fighting the FDA at the federal level, there needs to be the suspension of the production of menthol cigarettes at the source. And that's part of what this is all about. because your point is well taken. They
All right,
didn't
my point is well taken, but we still just like Lisa said, you know, when do we start treating it as an addiction? Right? When do we see we did the same thing. We did the same thing with the crack epidemic. And we haven't learned our lesson. We haven't learned our lesson, right? We did the same thing. Let's treat it as an addiction. If the county, and I'm just talking locally, if the county is going to lose $1.9 million, right? Well, why don't we take that $1.9 million and get patches and get this? Because see, they
I
talk about
agree. I
finding
agree
money.
with you. There's no disagreement there. Let me tell you how insidious and how important your point is. We're fighting the FDA to stop selling these products and to spend money on exactly what you're saying. You know what the bill actually says that they're looking at? That they would stop producing menthol cigarettes for domestic consumption, but they still could produce them to export them, meaning they would still be producing them, meaning they would still find their way up I-95. Okay, I hear you. Look, I've
Yeah.
driven up.
Dr.
So
Gardner.
it's a larger problem, and so we're going to.
Well, what I'm saying is we need to start off, because if all the numbers say smoking is the lowest as it hasn't been, you know, ever, then let's take that $1.9 million, and it's the same thing I told the county legislators. The $1.9 million that you make off the taxes of menthol, put it into education, put it into prevention, put it into treating it as an addiction. And also, since this is the health committee, you know, help these organizations that's in the Black community get fresh fruits and vegetables to our poor brothers and
I
sisters,
agree
so we
100%.
could get on the road of health and wellness.
I agree 100%.
Gentlemen, guess what? You went right over the answer and didn't even talk about it. Why aren't we cutting the snake off at the head? Why aren't we putting this task of not producing them and criminalizing the companies that make it, rather than criminalizing the bodegas and the sellers? Tell me why. Why aren't we
No, see,
criminalizing it with the companies?
let me tell you why.
Oh, is it money?
Big business.
Well, I mean,
think?
if you're going to
Wait a
do
minute,
that, you
you
might as well
think?
do it to alcohol and McDonald's and everything else that kill Black people.
Well, they tried that with alcohol. That didn't work. They tried the prohibition of alcohol didn't work. It just created an underground market. And they realized how much taxes they were losing, and they made it legal again.
So, Mr. Woodson, I'm glad you mentioned the word prohibition. The idea of getting rid of menthol cigarettes would not be prohibition. There would still be cigarettes. There would still be tobacco. And as I mentioned to Damon, the idea of getting rid of all cigarettes, I think the first step is the idea of getting rid of flavored cigarettes and flavored little cigars and flavored e-cigarettes. That's why they put the flavors in there, to make the poison much more palatable. Those are the first steps. It's not going to lead. Prohibition didn't work because, yeah, you tried to take people who are drinking alcohol and there's no alcohol. Here we're trying to say, just take the candy flavor out of it. You're going to save lives that way. I like your sign behind you.
But if it's the nicotine that the darker I am, it's the nicotine that affects me more than the non-flavored menthol cigarette. That nicotine is still going to affect me.
No, it's no.
How does that help?
Let's get back to the science. Yeah, we started with this. Let's get into this. When you have, and you notice it's coming back, and I want to thank Lisa again for at least noticing.
Oh, wait, while you get yourself together, just to let you know, a lot of people don't realize that the allergy medicine that we use over the counter does not help when it comes to these allergies with the postnasal drip. Now, unfortunately, a lot of people don't know about the decongestant that is available with allergy medicine, and it's only can be purchased behind the counter with a pharmacist. And let me
Yes,
explain.
yes.
Right, but the only problem with that is if you are suffering from any type of high blood pressure, it is a stimulant, so it also makes your blood pressure go up. So if you are in our community and if you are overweight or you have any underlying health conditions, you can't use that, so you have to suffer. you know um
Same thing if you're alcoholic. Some of it contains alcohol, and
yeah,
they can't take it.
that's correct.
When for alcoholic, they give them a list of things they can't take, and
Yeah,
a lot of those products are on that list.
no, absolutely.
So,
And mhm,
so thank you. Gave
you're
me a
welcome.
minute. Well,
My little commercial
let's start
break.
on the left side now. So what menthol properties allow it to do? Two things. I'll mention three other things to just drill down a little bit with you. So menthol creates what we call more nicotine receptors in your brain. What nicotine does generally is that it takes over certain cells in your brain and it demands that you fill those cells with nicotine. That's what addiction is. What menthol does is create more of those. And we have studies that show that people who use menthol cigarettes compared to people who don't produce more of these nicotine receptors in their brain. Okay, it's more addictive. Menthol also, for people who chew tobacco, it actually crosses the gum barrier much more efficiently than if there isn't menthol in it. And probably most problematic is when you inhale menthol. Menthol in smoke penetrates cell membranes much more effectively than if there isn't menthol in there. Therefore, people who smoke menthol get more addicted more quicker in this. Now, if you're a Negro like we are, I mean, you have brown, black skin, you are storing it in your tissues also. You don't have health care. You're eating bad food. You're being chased around by police. Your blood pressure is high. You don't have access to health care, and your body is overrun with nicotine. Black folks die disproportionately from these diseases compared to any other group of people. This is why, if you would remove menthol, we could save Black lives. It's the first step. All these I'm sorry we started off the discussion about, well, what about cheeseburgers and what about alcohol and what about this, that, and other? These things are bad for us. I know this. I'm an old
Dr.
man. I've dodged many a bullet. Hopefully, we'll all dodge a bullet.
Dr. Dr. Gardner, when I'm looking, I
interfering with
always
the right interfering with the right of individuals and companies is socialism, which is the powers that be in here in the United States are fully opposed to. Um,
Doctor,
well, that's a whole
when
nother
you were
I'm sorry.
talking about the nicotine, when you were talking about the nicotine, and you were talking about with the menthol, like you said, it is easier. But when I always look at Google God with a little G, it does say that in recent years they do put more nicotine in menthol cigarettes. Now, in your position as the tobacco organization, are you guys monitoring this? Do you have any type of um study on this, that they are adding more nicotine to menthol, which would make us more addictive?
Generally speaking, it has varied over the years, just in terms of what you've asked. When we say it's varied over the years, menthol cigarettes, and I was involved in a study in the 1990s and early 2000s that showed that menthol cigarettes had more nicotine in them than other cigarettes. But what we're also finding out, there is my colleague, Dr. Valerie Yerger, would say there's a symbiotic relationship between nicotine and menthol. you can lower the nicotine in cigarettes. And this is some of the proposals that are out there now. In fact, the FDA has approved cigarettes with lower nicotine content. But what they've done is increase the menthol content. And there's a relationship between the menthol content and the nicotine content where they relate as what we call a throat grab. That the sensation you get, the hit that you get when you smoke a cigarette, if you lower the nicotine and raise the menthol, you can get the same reaction if you had lower menthol and higher nicotine. The tobacco industry actually has studied this. Okay. There is a direct relationship. And so they have been able to, what we say, monitor and balance this. Let me make your point even stronger, Lisa. These new products that we have today, these e-cigarettes, they use what we call nicotine salts. Nicotine salts what's in a Marlboro and what's in a Newport, what we call freebase nicotine. They're powerful, and you get a rush and a hit. Nicotine salts are mild, and they put those in the e-cigarette. So imagine why so many kids are doing this, because they don't even think they're smoking. They're not having the same sensation that we had when we first tried a cigarette. These things are mild and mild. And then if you add some flavor to it, you add a little menthol to it, that's why you have so many kids addicted to e-cigarettes.
What about hookah?
Hookah's the same.
Is that included? Is that included in this ban?
In the national FDA regulations, that flavored shisha would be included.
And speaking locally, is that included in the Westchester ban? The proposed Westchester ban?
My group is proposing that. That's an excellent question, AJ. That's excellent. Here in California, there's been a big move by the tobacco industry to exempt hookah. And in fact, the bill that we have before us and on the November ballot would get rid of all flavored tobacco products, but exempt hookah. And I would suggest to you that hookah is the new menthol.
Well, worse. It's worse. An hour of hookah is like smoking 100 cigarettes.
It's not only is it worse, it's outrageously worse. No, it is. I agree.
That's the point I was making.
Well,
and I know there's pushback from the hookah. I know that there have been pushback from that community to accept hookah. And
their excuse is that it's cultural. Hookah is cultural. They're saying it's cultural. I said, well, cools were cultural to me and my family. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we gonna go the cultural route.
Yes, because cools are associated with the jazz, the Capitol Jazz. Don't start with me. I already know.
Cools. I mean, I can only speak for myself. Cools was just, when I saw older people that smoke, it was cools.
Yep.
That's what I was raised on, was cools. I mean, but to AJ's point about and your point about the cultural thing, look, when the Middle Eastern Islamic groups became aware that we all became aware in the 60s that cigarettes killed you. They actually came out specifically and said that hookah was forbidden. And to make matters worse, towards your point, AJ, smoking hookahs are much more deadly. Just passing tobacco smoke through water doesn't do anything to it. In fact, it allows you for deeper inhalation. And in fact, most hookah is flavored. So it's a similar problem. And then saying that it's a cultural thing, Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds ain't got nothing to do with Middle East culture. It's all about Benjamin.
No.
The person who said this to me coming down the stairs from our forum is the county legislator who is proposing this bill, Christopher Johnson.
No, and I'm going to tell you, Doctor, I testified at one of the health committees about the concerns of law enforcement with this bill, because my president, he's from New York City, but he called me to testify, and the National Hookah Association was on there, and that was their argument to the county legislators health committee, that hookah was cultural. It was part of their culture, and it was a Middle Eastern lady, and she. So when I spoke, I said, well, hell, cool, then cools is cultural to us too. If hookah can be cultural to them, I said it can't be. Many Black people sitting right here on the board probably knew, had an auntie or uncle that smoked cools. So,
Not
I mean,
probably. Not.
right. So, but that was my, that was my response to what she said, and I was just like, well, then cools is cultural. Cools and Newports is cultural too in the Black community. If we're going to have that type of argument, you understand
Well,
what I'm saying?
look at it this way.
You can smoke them. You can use hookah inside where you can't smoke a cigarette. So
that's outrageous. That the secondhand smoke from that is even worse.
All these clubs and lounges, they offer hookah at the bar.
That's
and
right.
Every the smoke is blowing everywhere.
That's right.
You can't smoke a cigarette inside, but you can blow hookah smoke all through
That's crazy, because the secondhand smoke exposure, which you guys are aware of, about third-hand smoke? Third-hand smoke is when it's in the air and then it lands on the furniture, on the rug, on your hair, on your dog, on the plants, and then it readmits. We have studies that show when third-hand smoke readmits from furniture, or readmits from walls, or readmits from rugs, it produces new carcinogens that weren't in the first and second-hand smoke. Your point, AJ, it's a mess. It's wrong and it's deadly, and it should be left this out of it. But back to the cultural thing. Look, the American Indian is the one who created cigarettes and never used them as cigarettes. That's the commercial tobacco. Commercial tobacco doesn't get to the Middle East, but through England taking it into India and into the Middle East some 300 to 400 years ago. It wasn't until 100 years ago that it became, quote unquote, popular only among people who could afford it. It was in the 60s when the Islamic tradition began to say it's forbidden, and it wasn't until the 2000s that it became this thing about lounges and all these different flavors and all these new looking pipes. It's not a cultural, this is a capitalist tradition. This is about the Benjamins. This is not about culture. So I think that's a hard argument. We're having this discussion in many different cities. Westchester's not the only city in play. I'm on my way to Charleston, South Carolina this week to have this discussion with their city council and Black leaders. Following that, I'll go to Columbus, Ohio, where we've met. We have meetings set up with the city council there. Westchester's not love for Westchester to go forward on this because it would help us in the fight in New York. Because the fight is going on in New York. Go ahead.
Doc, let me ask you a question.
Can I ask you questions first, Damon? Real quick. In full disclosure, and I mean no harm. You're traveling all over the place having these conversations. You had mentioned that Dr. Ben and the other type of people that are having the opposite conversation are being paid, or money coming from the tobacco industry. Are you being paid in any way to have these conversations from any industry, any corporations, or anything?
I retired from the university right when the pandemic started in 2020, so I have a pension. They get what do you call it? Social Security. And sometimes people need to come and do these lectures if you've seen any of the lectures that I've done. But no, I don't get paid by any company. Just to put it, not to put too sharp of a point. I showed some grants that my organization gets from the state of California that gives them some money. And we've gotten some money from Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, which has been a big supporter of tobacco control. Yeah, no company's going to give me any money.
No, I was Damon. Just before you go, I was just going to make that point. as a researcher, yes, you would get research grants to do the
Right.
research, but not honorariums or no kickbacks from any companies. And that I respect that. I understand that. But just AJ, you touched on something very important, what you said, as far as the when you look at the legislation of this, what are, and I'm going to go back to Philip Morris, I'm going to go back to the tobacco companies. What are their lobbyists doing to make sure that this ban, where, because we already know that the congressional caucus is split in two. We've already known that. And when AJ and I did the show before Dr. Ben Chavis came, we looked at it, and when we looked at the literature, the 10 years, there was a 10 years in between the same article that came out, was that they were still split because of course, like I said, they sat up there and supported the Congressional Black Caucus, like you said, the foundation. So back to AJ's point, when you're talking about what are the lobbyists doing on behalf of the drug companies, are they doing I call it the silent pushback, where they're on these, the tobacco committees, and they're lobbying on behalf of their company? Where are they? Are anybody like attacking them? Who are going up against the lobbyists that are trying to push for this ban to go through? Where's the
Well,
opposition?
I would suggest that's a great point. I wish there were
Good
more
question.
opposition, but toward your point, split is too easy of a word. I would say the majority of folks in the Congressional Black Caucus are supportive of our position. In fact, there's a letter signed by 53 different House members in support of this bill, the majority of them being from the Congressional Black Caucus. At the same time, there are some in the Congressional Black Caucus who do take money directly from the tobacco industry, speak out about it all the time. So there is a split at a certain level of abstraction, is your point. My suggestion is that the majority of them actually don't take money from them and do are on our side. But to your real point, and I think this is what confronting us all here, who is there on the Hill all the time speaking for the interests of Black people and against those of the tobacco industry? Oh, there's Tobacco Free Kids, and there's the Truth Organization, and there's American Heart, Lung, and Cancer. But for us, there's very few of us. We have one or two, my organization, the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council, has 2 or 3 people in DC trying to work on the Hill. Some of them were able to go to the convention you were at, Lisa, and be there. And maybe you saw me wandering around the hotel at some point. Yeah, no, we don't have, look at it this way. The tobacco industry in 2018 was a $220 billion industry. Menthol cigarettes were 35%, somewhere in the neighborhood of $70 billion. That's why there's so much opposition. They don't even, Damon, they don't even have to pay you. AJ, they have to pay you.
Well,
anyway.
Has any legal opposition been discussed? Because I know that the National ACLU has came out and opposed the ban also.
Right.
Has anyone,
Do you know
because
that the ACLU takes amounts of money from the tobacco industry?
Well, I mean, even if they take
has
money,
been for years, for decades.
Even if they take money from them legally, has they even if they take money from them, because see, in my conversations, let me just finish, Doc. In my conversations with the legislators, they specifically say that this bill is targeting Black people, right? They specifically say I mean, they're on record to say that this bill is specifically targeting black people. So what I'm saying is, from their own testimony and from their own record, right? It could be legally challenged that this bill is biased.
So what? So who says it's legal? Who says that it's targeting black people?
Oh well, let's just watch them. Watch
no,
the minutes.
No. I'm asking you. Who says?
Well, from what I've seen, from what I've seen, it's media, and the
yeah,
media.
the media says it.
No. I'm not talking about
That's
the
not what
media.
Damon's talking about.
I testified. I testified in front of the county legislators' health bill, and they specifically said it's about black people and black people's health. Right. So now you're almost admitting on record that this bill is biased.
No, I don't think the bill is biased at all, sir. I don't think that at all. I think the bias is from the tobacco industry.
No. We're talking about
racially
legislators. We're talking about the bill
I'm
creators.
talking about them too. I'm talking about the real racists are the tobacco industry. But that's not. But
the tobacco industry has not testified on record. They have.
But wait a minute. The people that you work for have testified. And you're putting out the line of the
people I work
industry.
for. I don't work for anybody.
I don't work for anybody.
I work for Westchester County. That's my job. I work for Westchester County, and I am a black law enforcement officer that is concerned. But I wasn't the one who came out and said it was targeting black people. I'm responding to that. So I'm also a health and wellness coach. I'm also a holistic practitioner. I've written 2 books on health and wellness and veganism. And I'm not arguing about the ban. I'm arguing about targeting black people, right? And when the legislators say that out of their mouth, I have a problem with that. Right? I have a problem
with how we're characterizing this. So
I'm not characterizing this.
I have a problem with. Saying. Okay, I have a problem with the characterization that removing menthol from the marketplace is discriminatory toward black people.
If you pass a bill, if you're promoting a bill,
yes, if we pass a bill that gets rid of the things for black people doing the most, it will save black lives.
If you're passing a bill that is prohibiting black people, the majority, 80% of black people smoke menthol cigarettes.
The majority of black smokers, right?
Right, around the same. White smokers probably same to 80%, right? It's around the same. So black people are being punished because they smoke menthol, but white people can walk around and their lives are not messed up at all because the majority of them smoke non-menthol.
Sir,
in which the same thing addictive is the nicotine.
So you're not paying attention. So anyway, they're not being punished. What's happening is the tobacco industry is killing them. And if we can get rid of these things off the market, then we save some black lives. What you're arguing, you want to leave them on the market and let them continue to die.
I'm arguing as I argued before, Doc, with all respect. Let's treat it like an addiction. Let's go out there and help black people because they're still it's
not either or. It's not either or.
But they're still going to get it. They're still going to buy cigarettes.
It's not either or.
But they're still going to buy cigarettes.
People. You need
they're
to
still
get rid
going
of
to
it
buy
and
cigarettes.
People.
Look, I just told you 80% illegal cigarettes in New York City. 60% of the cigarettes sold in New York State are illegal. You're just going to feed the monster. That's all you're going to do because you're not treating it as an addiction. So you're not going out there. Nobody's educating. Nobody's going out there giving out patches. Nobody's going out there talking to the kids. Nobody's going out and smoking is at the all-time low. But still, nobody's going out there and doing it.
So I'm suggesting to you that not only should we do the things that you're saying, we agree with that. And some of us are out there doing that and have spent their entire adult life doing that. So no, it's not true that no one's not doing
I can
it.
only this is specifically Westchester. Ain't nobody doing that here in Westchester.
Okay, well then someone needs to be doing that there in Westchester. What
No,
I'm saying is that
absolutely,
not only is what you're
absolutely, and
saying
that's
is
our point.
correct,
And
And
that's
that's the
not only
part
is
of our
what you're
point,
saying
Doc.
is correct, not only is what you're saying is correct, what I'm saying is it's not either or. We need to get these products off the market and do what you are saying.
Okay, and see that's what I'm not hearing. So let's say the ban approves tomorrow, next week, whatever. It nicotine, menthol cigarettes,
AJ,
they're legal, yes, in Westchester County. But the people that are addicted, because you said it's an addiction, they're going through this withdrawal or something. You're not providing them. Where's that part? And with this, you can't do one without the other because
I want it.
you're removing the source of the addiction.
So then let's raise. I agree. I agree. See, I'm trying to agree with
and
Damon
I don't see that, but
with
I don't
you.
see that in the bill though.
So
I'm not
then
hearing
let's
that.
let's put it in the bill. Let's
Dr. Gardner, the one thing
we gotta pay the bill. Hold on one second, everybody. We gotta go right commercial. Hold on one second.
It's going down Saturday, November 12th. Doug B Productions and Billy Rajan presents A Night of Elegance with a live performance by Intro. A Night of Elegance starring Intro. Intro live at the Coliseum, Saturday, November 12th. A Night of Elegance starring Intro. This is an event you don't want to miss. With music provided by DJ Chris Love, DJ Kid New, and DJ Kool-Aid. Live and direct at the Coliseum, 15 South Broadway in White Plains, New York. For tickets and information, call 914-403-8376 or 914-874-9415. Intro at the Coliseum, Saturday, November 12th. We are the soul of New York. 108 Soul.
All right, we're back.
Everybody just tuning in.
And we had to take that break. We were supposed to take it at 7 o'clock.
Right. For everybody who's just tuning in or did not catch the beginning of the show, you are tuned into Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 355. I am AJ Woodson and Damon K. Jones, your host, and Lisa Maria Nero, co-host. And our guest for today is Dr. Philip Gardner, and we're having a discussion about the ban of menthol or flavored nicotine products in Westchester County and a proposed bill that the county legislators are proposing. And that is the discussion we have for anybody who didn't join us at the beginning.
Right. Doctor, as I was saying, and AJ, please put that number back on. Intro was my people. You hear me?
Yo, listen, we all gonna be in there that night. I don't know what y'all talking about.
I love it. But doctor, so I just want to make sure that we are clear with your position, because I want to make sure that I heard you correctly. And I want you to, to focus in on this, that we know about your advocacy for 20 years. We are not questioning that. We know all the work that you've done. We know that you've you've studied, and we appreciate and honor your work. But I just want your opinion on how you don't see this ban as being biased. I need your full,
I've tried to be very clear about this. I think that the bias is from the marketing of these products for a half a century in our community by the tobacco industry. I think that getting them out of our community will save Black lives. I'm going to agree with Damon and AJ that it is an addiction, and that if you get them out, you have to work on, you have to educate and give people cessation services. That should be part of the bill, not only in Westchester County, but in any other city, state, or in federal legislation that goes on. You can't just throw it away and then say, see ya, Black folks. So yeah, that's what I fight for in all these different places I go to.
Understood.
Can I say one thing before you do, Lisa?
Let Lisa
Okay, I just want to say one quick thing. as I always argue, two things can be true at the same time. What the tobacco did was targeting people, and that was biased. And this bill can also be biased, and what it's doing. Two things can be true at the same time. Go ahead, Lisa.
Sure. So again, just relating back to my concern, and I'm just using your point. If you're saying that it's not biased, if you're saying that this is not biased, then why aren't they banning all tobacco?
And as I mentioned to Damien before, is that I think the people that are hurt the most by cigarettes are people that are using menthol cigarettes. And the people that are using menthol cigarettes the most are African Americans. And that if we are able to get rid of menthol cigarettes, it will actually save Black lives. And that this is how they should be targeted. And the other points that people have been raising, I've been actually a major proponent of, is that you can't just get rid of these products. You need to actually have educational and cessation services with them.
But can't this be seen as a microaggressive act? Isn't this a microaggressive because you're treating a particular race differently, group of people?
Because they've been treated different. Yeah, they've been treated differently the whole time in this epidemic. It needs to be focused in on and dealt with and given special attention to, and the correct attention, and the money spent on it, and the education that is deserved from it.
But so how is it equal? I'm really stuck on that.
What do you mean? How's it equal?
Because it's not. It's not equal.
So what would make it equal?
Banning all of you ban all of it, not just flavored.
Well, as I said, what we did in Hollywood, and I want to encourage us to do this, is that the thing that is killing our people the most are flavored cigarettes, menthol in particular. And if we took some steps to get rid of it, it would save Black lives. Now, that's fine. You can disagree with that and say, unless we get rid of everything, we should allow that. We should allow that to continue. Is what you're essentially saying.
No, what we're not.
Can I bring up Damon's point?
Let's let things continue. Unless we get rid of all
no. I'm going to bring up Damon's point. I'm going to bring up Damon's point. The comparison of the crack epidemic in response compared to the opiate epidemic in response.
I agree with that distinction. I think that's right. I'm aware the war on drugs was a war on Negroes. I'm extremely aware on that. And then what goes on with opiates is these folks get away free. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but Doc, you can't say the war on drugs is the war on Negroes, and then you attack.
Not look at this in the same breath.
You're looking at the war the wrong way, Damien. I would suggest the war has been to push these things down our throats. You're missing that whole part of it.
No. I understand. I understand the whole part of it.
They pushed it down our throats.
No. I understand the whole part of it, and so is alcohol, and so is Hennessy, and so is materialism, and so is bad food and bad diet, and all that's pushed down our throats, right? But when we talk about legislation, and just like Lisa said. It reminds me of the crack cocaine, powder cocaine, right? Crack cocaine Black people use. They got more time than the powder cocaine users that were white in the white neighborhood. They got more of the police presence with the crack cocaine than they did in the white neighborhood. So
they got jail, we got jail, and they got rehab.
Majority of white people use.
Not only do I know all of this, I make these same arguments. But you're missing the war that you're missing, and I respectfully say this, is the war the tobacco industry has waged on our people essentially since day one. I can't say it strong enough.
No, I understand that. I really do understand that. We all agree on that. right? What we don't agree on is how we're going to move forward with it. We get it, right? We
Well,
we,
you
we
would
get it.
suggest, what are you suggesting how we move forward? So let's just leave menthol on the market. Let's let things
I'm suggesting let's
And no one said
as
that. So
addiction.
that's it. That's
Oh, no, that's what you're
Deal
all
with it
saying.
as
That's not
addiction.
what we're saying.
No,
What are you
I
saying?
say get stop targeting with your microaggressive act against Black people, and I think you should ban all. Listen, you're speaking,
So do
and
you
I'm the
have
worst
an
one
argue to
because you're
get rid of
speaking to
all
someone.
cigarettes?
All cigarettes.
any-
You're
get
speaking to
all of
someone
them.
who's never smoked a day in my life. Nothing. Absolutely. I
But it's not
abhor
about you as
smoking
an
of any
individual.
kind. So I'm a rarity.
But we're not going to do that. We're not going to ban all of them because white folks smoke the menthol and not menthol, right? We ain't going to do that. We ain't going to make Massa mad. We not going to
Facts,
do that.
Faz.
We're not going to do that. Let's
So
ban
wait
them
a minute,
all.
Dave. We've done this in a number of cities and actually states around the country. So Master's already mad.
What, you banned all cigarettes?
No, I'm talking
Oh,
about
then
banning
Master's
menthol
already mad.
cigarettes.
That's what he's talking about. That's
No,
what he's
Master's
talking
not
about.
mad because see, white folks have not had their lives interrupted like Black people because they're not the majority of smoking menthol. That's my point.
I got the best one for you. You know why they're not going to ban everything? Look how it was just the ban on indoor smoking. Look what pushback they got from that. Think about that when they
Well, we
banned
got
it
past
indoors.
that, didn't we?
Yeah.
We got past that. We
white
got a
folks are
new
still
thing
smoking.
now with the hookah, but we did get it. Remember, it was going to put businesses out of
And
bars
hookah
were going to close,
and hookah is
restaurants were not
worse.
going to be able to feed people. We
But
beat all that.
here's a good example of unintended consequences, which is something that he talked about. So you banned all indoor smoking to save people from secondhand smoke, and
now everybody's smoking outside.
And the unintended consequences is a product that is way worse, that kills you more, is now allowed to be smoked indoors, hookah, and everybody gets affected by it more than the smoking was because you can Google it. If you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. 1 hour of smoking hookah is equivalent to smoking.
I do a whole presentation on it, Holmes. I agree with you.
Is equivalent to smoking 100 cigarettes.
No,
But the unintended consequences of the indoor smoking ban gave room to hookah. And
that's not what gave rise to hookah, sir.
What Damon and them is an unintended consequence. But what Damon and them were arguing at the forum were the unintended consequences of this bill. Like, it's not intended. The crime bill wasn't intended to be the mass incarceration of Black people, but that was the unintended consequences of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, these bills have unintended consequences that we face.
What I'm trying to suggest to you, and then I think we should probably end this for the sake of sense, is I'm talking about the intended consequences. Intended consequences of the tobacco industry has been to kill Black folks. And there's a period there. Okay. I think there's many ways that we can deal with this. I agree with the idea. I agree. I've been arguing for that. There should be cessation services. There should be money. And I think that the first step in dealing with the tobacco epidemic is to get rid of menthol cigarettes. So that's where I stand.
But we don't
hear you folks as
in the argument from our county legislators. We're not hearing about the health aspect that needs to accompany this, not go afterwards. If you're going to remove the ban, then the health aspect, the patches,
education,
because you're just trying to get you're gonna make a whole bunch of people go cold turkey.
When it comes
cold turkey to an addiction that you keep.
So I agree. When it comes back up, I will be the person as the public health doctor to then argue that if you pass such a bill, there needs to be funds set aside for station services, not only for education, but for patches, for gums, and for other in dealing with this.
Yeah, and I agree with where they're going to get their funds from.
Right.
You know, they can't. Look. You're talking about a county.
Well, let me answer your question,
like
Damon. Let me answer the question because
it has to be identified in the bill.
I think the same thing that we're confronting around the country you just raised, and I actually agree with you. How you deal with this is that money gets set aside by governments, both locally, state, and federal, for all sorts of things that isn't dependent on a tax on that product. But there needs to be money identified in the city and county budget that is for cessation services that don't come from tobacco taxes. But we're in that fight at the national. We're actually in that fight at the state level in California. Look at California has one of the strongest tobacco control programs in the United States. And a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it is dependent on tobacco taxes. As smoking rates go down, we get less money for tobacco control. We're in the process of fighting at the legislature now that money needs to be gotten from elsewhere. This is your point, Damon, to deal with this.
Well, yeah, but the money was taxes. I don't know where
taxes were replaced with the marijuana taxes in California.
I have a solution.
The tobacco taxes were replaced by the marijuana taxes. But wait, before you say that, you're asking the federal government, who you just made accusations that they are receiving great funding and campaign donations from the tobacco industry to do these things that you want that's going to hurt the tobacco industry.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly. Wait a minute. Where do you think these laws came from that hurt the tobacco industry in the first place? Is that we got some people to stand up against them. So don't think that somehow they're never going to do anything.
Let me tell you. I've been 4 years without a raise from Westchester County. They better give me my raise first.
Wait, Damon, I got a better one.
I've been going 4 years without a raise. Before they start, listen, look, I'm all for all the programs. When you find money for some programs, you better find some money for my raise, legislative.
Listen, AJ, I'm with you, because what are you saying? You're asking the federal government. Nope. Wait, I'm going to take it all the way back to another form of reparations. You go to the tobacco companies and you tell them, just like they had to do all these cessation programs, you do the same. You tell them, here we go again. You have to put the money aside. You have to, instead of paying your lobbyists to go against this ban, you are the ones who are producing it. So you also have to produce the programs and set the money aside instead of the federal government.
That's what the master settlement agreement was in 1998, where they said
I'm talking about
$106 billion.
That's right.
That got eaten up immediately. So there's money out there.
Let me present something to you. Just like paying people to smoke cigarettes in movies and television show, the seeing of that makes somebody want to smoke a cigarette. Those do not smoke commercials that show cigarettes make someone who smokes cigarettes want to smoke a cigarette. So, and the tobacco company knows it's the same psychological addiction. It still hits the same spots, but they're doing what you told them to do. They're saying don't do these things, but them being it still sets off the same prompts that seeing Sam Spade or whoever, the cool cowboy, smoke a cigarette in the westerns. It still sets off the same thing. It makes you want to smoke a cigarette.
Subliminal messages.
Go ahead. Yeah,
it's not subliminal. What he's saying, that's direct. That's what he's saying. Don't smoke. Right. You think about smoking. Right. In all fairness, there's whole groups of people working on the idea of getting cigarettes out of movies. And while we had a good period there in the 90s, it's back. And even these new e-cigarettes and all these new the hookah and all of that, you're seeing more and more of that. It's a major problem that we face here. I would suggest that this is towards your point, Lisa. Yeah, the tobacco industry should be paying for this. And to
they did the target marketing. Why not?
They said, yeah, no. I mean, I think exactly. So,
I want to come. We're coming to the close of the show, and I want to give you an opportunity to wrap up. Last statements. What would you like? What would you like to say to educate the people, and also to our county legislators who want to put this bill? What should be included? What should be included per this conversation that's not included in this bill? Any last words of that effect?
I should just maybe Damon or Lisa should say what they want to say. I should just say I want to thank you for having me on. I want to thank you for us being able to argue in a friendly manner.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
No. I really do. It's. I appreciate being among Black folks. I've been a Black doc. It's hard to be a public health doctor in the Black community when people say, "Well, what about all these other shit that we stuff that we say?"
This is the show you can say.
Right.
You can say shit on
You can say it.
Okay,
That's right.
I hear you. I'll just leave what I started with. It's what we call a framework of our time. The framework of our time is that we have research that shows that what can I say? That between 1980 and 2018, menthol cigarettes were responsible for 1.5 million African American smokers, 157,000 smoking-related premature deaths among African Americans, and 1.5 million years of life lost among African Americans. Toward that end, I mean, we actually have data on this published article. I can share it with folks and, whatever. To that end is what my group believes and have worked with. And I just have to admit, I appreciate the point that folks have raised that it's not just about smoking. And as being a Black man, I understand that. My framework is that menthol cigarettes and flavored little cigars have been and are the main vectors of, not the only, the main vectors of death and disease in the Black community. The COVID-19 pandemic has just thrown a spotlight on the health disparities that we face for hundreds of years. Nothing could be more helpful in saving Black lives and making Black lives matter than getting these products straight out of the Black community. I don't think it's bias. I think the bias is the predatory marketing by the tobacco industry. And lastly, I guess I appreciate the opportunity to hear from you folks and understand that there needs to be cessation services written into any bill that is passed that deals with smoking and Black folks in Westchester County, and there should be a period after that.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gardner. Thank you again for your advocacy for 20 years. The work that you've done, and again, there's not many of us in public health, and there's not many of us in occupational health. So I definitely appreciate your work, but I'm just going to go all the way back. They targeted us. They should be the ones paying for the education and the programming. Let reparations be in that form as well. Thank you.
I agree.
Dr. Gardner, thank you for this great conversation. And thank you for the work that you have done and you will continue to do in advocating for Black people's health. We might be on different roads, but we go into the same finish line to try to get Black people healthy, wealthy, and healthy, wise, and wealthy. So I thank you for coming on the show. I thank you for giving your opinion, and I'm humbled to have a elder from the community that's been fighting as long as you have been fighting on the show and having a great conversation, a respectful conversation.
I also echo. I want to thank you, Dr. Gardner. part of the reason we did this was our 8-year anniversary last month. Actually, August was, and part of the reason Damon and I did this, then we do the newspaper and the website and all the things we do, was so we can have these kind of conversations, so we can have these spaces where we can disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. We can each express the opinions of everybody, and hopefully everybody hears what the other ones are saying, not just coming to be heard. So I thank you, and I hope we do that, and we continue to do that. And I hope we put this video on the website. I hope there will be plenty of people that will share this, and they will watch it, and they will learn something, and they will be able to make educated decisions, and they will be able to make and have an educated voice when they speak on it, when it comes up to a vote or something. Because I think that was the other thing that some people said, that the legislators maybe shouldn't do it, that it should be put up to a vote for the voters. That was another thing that some of our people had said when we did the forum, that contacted us through emails and stuff like that. So we do propositions on the back of these things for everything, like everything. So maybe this should be one of those things. And if that is, the people need to be educated and informed before they can, make it an informed decision.
I realize my co-chairs, 2 African American women, are much more. The word I want to use is polite. In their presentation, I want to apologize for at some point being my black self and hollering and screaming and
Nah, man.
There was never anything, and I hope you don't take anything from us. There was never anything that was an intentional disrespect to my person or to my show. You
Absolutely
were expressing the points that you came here to express.
Exactly.
We were bringing other items that need to be included in this, and some other frame of thoughts to the situation. And hopefully collectively we had a conversation, maybe being a difficult conversation, a courageous conversation that needs to be had. And that's what we're about. So we need to be able to have these conversations and know, and like I said, we've all thanked you. We all respect you. We respect the work that you're
Absolutely,
doing.
man.
And I hope that came across as well. I hope you didn't.
No, I think the word that Dame used, it's a humbling experience. If one thing I've learned from doing this work, you have to listen to other people. You have to be respectful to Black folks. And I think sometimes when we raise our voice, I remind me of my father, and I wonder, well, where did I get that from? Of course, he was a smoke. We're who we are, and it's hard not to be who we are.
Right.
But I appreciate us coming on. It'll be interesting to see what Westchester County does in terms of this. I would like to see them go forward with this. I think the ideas that you folks put forward about getting folks to pay for services should be in the bill. I don't know if that's in there right now. I will argue that with them. So I will try and make that possible.
I don't know if you used the word polite when you were speaking about your sisters, but they were just as passionate at that forum. I'm just going to tell you.
Oh, no, I know they were.
No disrespect to Sister Jewel and the other sister, but they were very passionate, and they were passionate all through that room from different sides. So, I mean,
Yeah, no, I know they're passionate.
That's who we are.
Boys and girls are different things.
Yes.
Yes.
But yeah, there was a lot of passion in that room that night, though, on everybody's side. So I thank you all for tuning in. I thank you again, Dr. Gardner. And if you ever need to reach out to our community on any other health issues or would like to join us in any other health and wellness conversations, please let us know. You have my email. You have my phone numbers at the bottom of that email and everything. Please let us know, because I would definitely like to, pick your brain on some other health and wellness stuff. Yes, this is going to be on the website, and I will make sure I send it to you.
I appreciate it.
I'll put it up on the website, and I will send it to you so you can share it or do whatever you need to do.
And thank Lisa for recognizing when it was an allergy attack that all of a sudden I'm talking and then no, it's so real.
I've been there. And listen, I have to actually thank Dr. Glenn Davis. He was the one that actually diagnosed that when I came home from Morgan State. and I was taking Robitussin like it was a bottle of water. And he was just like, take some Benadryl and call me. I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, it's an allergy, baby. I was like, oh my God. Okay. So
All
God
right,
bless
folks.
you.
I have a pack of Halls, menthol Halls by my and I'm drinking a big glass of water. I've been filling it up just so I don't choke or cough. So, I thank you all for coming again. That invitation again, Dr. Gardner, and whenever you want to come back, especially speaking on anything dealing with health and wellness. We try to get more and more into that. I want to thank Lisa Maria. Is it Maria or Marie? It's Maria.
It's Marie.
Last time it said Marie. This time it say Maria. So I just
It's
want to make
Maria.
sure.
Yep. It's Maria.
Okay. Last time you had an E there, though. Okay, I'm sure you did. But thank you, Lisa Marie Nero, who will be joining us as a guest co-host from time to time, and we want to bring that back. We've had some very strong female co-hosts. You know what I'm saying? We feel we need the conversation can't just be a bunch of guys. We need that black female voice. You know what I'm saying? To and you know, because you come from a different lens sometimes on some of the topics we do, and we need to hear all of that. Everybody else out there, you could be doing anything else. What's coming up? When is the date of that intro? Is that coming up soon, or is that November or something?
Want me to play it again?
Yeah, you can play it. Just when I finish, you can play that. Okay. I'll be speaking tomorrow.
All right, have a good night. Have a good night, Doc. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, I'm just doing my outro now. So yes, thank you very much thank you, my brother.
Okay, no, thank you guys.
I will be tomorrow. I will be speaking at Pace University for their journalism class. Shout out to Lisa Reyes, formerly of News 12, who's teaching up there, who invited me to speak on.
Oh, that's great.
Going for the anniversary of Dan Roy Henry, the Dan Roy Henry case, who was a Pace University student. So we will be talking about the media and the aspects of all that tomorrow. There's a bunch of things coming up this week. And the Westchester Black Women's Political Caucus is having their 46th annual gala, I believe. Hope that's the right number. And I believe that's Thursday night, maybe. And all the stories that you heard, all the news that you heard me read in the beginning, all of those are on Black Westchester or stories that will be on Black Westchester this week. The newspaper's coming out. This is the last issue before the election. So if you haven't advertised and you want to advertise, this is the issue to do it. The next issue won't come up till after the election. So this is the issue, the last issue before the election. With that said, thank you, Lane Cobb. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. D. Wilson, Dr. Bob.
Thanks, everybody.
You could all be doing something else, but you decided to ride with us, and we greatly appreciate it. This has been Black Westchester Presents the People Before Politics radio show, episode 355, with Damon K. Jones and AJ Woodson. We're on every Sunday night, 6 to 8, streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Until next week, peace.